a morfina e a primeira manifestação de liberação sexual. Aluno rebelde de uma das mais tradicionais academias militares, a de West Point, ficou famoso como professor em Harvard, onde organizou polêmicos grupos de psicanálise. Nesse período, anos 50, começou a trabalhar com drogas. Banido da universidade, abriu suas experiências marcadamente com LSD para grandes comunidades. Na época, associado a outros intelectuais e movimentos políticos, fez a cabeça de milhões de jovens pelo mundo todo e se tornou um dos maiores gurus dos anos 60. Aos 71 anos, pai de 3 filhos, avô, sobreviveu a todas as suas experiências e hoje corre o mundo fazendo palestras, divulgando um novo caminho para descobertas, o uso do computador. Do you still use drugs sometimes, Dr. Leary, or not?
I cannot talk about that in public.
Why not?
Because in America there's a war of this government against free speech, against free reading, so it's like, it's a dictatorship, and so another reason why I don't want to talk about drugs is that today the government does not tell you what are good drugs and bad drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So I do not tell people to use drugs. I look at this, if you're a young person, do not use drugs. Why? Because you don't know what you're getting, and because you're not taught how to do it. At the present time, as we will talk, I'm developing computer programs that will allow you to create visions in your mind, and so far, these programs are legal.
Anyway, you can talk, but I can't have a conclusion. You said, yes, I use sometimes.
Yes.
O Cara a Cara começa logo depois do intervalo com Timothy Leary. Timothy Leary me deu essa entrevista enquanto participava em São Paulo do primeiro encontro com os magos da nova era. Dr. Leary, you are considered one of the wizards of the new age. Yes. What is it? What kind of blend is that? Magic with technology?
Well, there are many, many kinds of magics. There's good magic, and good magic is our thinking about the future that science will make possible. Good magic leads to science. Bad magic is superstition, where religious leaders or political leaders say, oh, be careful, I will protect you, you must use my magic. My magic is good magic, as it is designed to free the individual human being to grow and to learn how to be a wizard. I'm not a wizard. I coach wizards. I teach you to be a wizard.
Well, today you are proposing the use of computers to man's self-knowledge. How did you come to this?
Well, personal computers became popular about 10 years ago. And they allow you to put on a screen anything that you can think of or imagine. And now with graphic programs, images, pictures, movies, anything that you can imagine or think of, you can edit it and put it on the screen. I don't see how it is possible, Gabi, to live in 1992 and not know how to use computers.
But I'll tell you
You've got to learn how to use computers because that's the future.
But I'll tell you how we can live without it. Drugs and magic have always been somehow of easy access to anybody in the world.
Yes.
The computer isn't. Most people are very poor and don't have the access to technology. The self-knowledge via computer, therefore, isn't a very, very limited proposal.
Gabi, I totally agree with you. And I am working to take care of that problem. Every 6 months, the cost of computers, of software, is cut in half or more because of the Japanese technology. Every 6 months, the computer is 10 times more powerful. Every 6 months, it's smaller, so that now we have available for poor people, for children in schools, electronic technology, that is cheaper than the books. Now you take a book, a textbook, a book of history, that costs in America maybe $25.
Yeah, yes.
And you have to cut down.
Expensive.
You have to cut down the Amazon jungle to make these books. And each books are terrible. They're made in factories, and every book, every page, it's the same. Books are made for robots. With the new computers, you can take a disc, a compact disc like this. This costs maybe $2, and you can have 500 books on it, which you can put on your screen. Everything I do, Gabi, is to give to the young, poor person in the ghetto of America, or in the third world, or even the poor, stupid, rich kid in Beverly Hills. I want to give them the access so that they can have, inexpensively, less money than a magazine, a program that allows them to have history.
So, in fact, you are proposing an exchange, a trade of investment, to invest in technology and computers and not anymore in books. That is it?
Well, number one, no more in guns.
Yeah,
all right?
Sure.
And no more in pollution, and no more in corruption politicians. No, books are all right. In the future, the textbook for a classroom will not be something they read, and then give back. A book is like a screenplay, and the students will take the book about the history of World War II. I say, now we will do the Battle of 1944, or the Battle of Normandy, and they will go in this disc. They'll have dozens of pictures and movies about Normandy, and then they can take a little camera, and you can be Churchill, and you can be Roosevelt, and they make their own. The book is a screenplay for the movie that the children will be making in school. The nice thing about this, Gabi, is that books and letters like this is Portuguese. My book is English. His book is Japanese. The language we're developing is global. It's multimedia. You can see immediately what is on the screen, so that will make possible a global international village, one schoolroom, and on the screen in my schoolroom, the Japanese and the Brazilian and the American kids can meet in the classroom in the screen and learn to talk to each other, not with words, Portuguese, but in images.
So, in your opinion, has the science fiction always made a mistake when associating the computer to the slavery of men in the future?
No. Computers and electrons can and do today enslave people. Gabi, I want to tell you something terrible. In the United States today, the average house watches television 7 hours a day. And it's garbage coming at them. Violence, sex, advertising. Now, Gabi, why? These Americans, they have not committed a crime. They're not being forced to watch television. They're not being paid money to open their eyes and let that garbage come. They do it voluntarily. And that's mass media enslaving. In the Gulf War, the screen told us, bravo, America has won the greatest victory. Schwarzkopf, General Schwarzkopf is like Hannibal, or he's like Churchill. It's all lies. Right now, the American people are being enslaved by electrons. The answer to that is to have individuals with their own clicks, and we can put on the screen what we want to. And if George Bush comes on the screen, I'll go, oh, and I'll make his voice talk like Minnie Mouse. Yes, or no? You get it?
Yeah.
Power to the individual.
I know. Psychoanalysis, in its several trends, is very spread nowadays, a very popular resource. Now you are proposing the exopsychology, innovating again. Could you explain what is the exopsychology?
Well, first, let me talk about psychoanalysis. I was trained as a psychoanalyst way back in the Paleolithic, like 1940, 1945, 1950.
Were you a good one, psychoanalyst?
I was as good as you could be. But back then, and you young people will not believe what I'm going to say. To be able to diagnose another human being and to help them psychologically, you had to have an MD. You were a doctor in psychoanalysis. And the patient would sit there, lie there, and you'd talk, and you'd say, well, Del, you are neurosis, you're obsessive, you are, like that. I helped start Power to the Patient. We set psychoanalysis way back. How? We formed group therapy. Socrates told us that. The best way to learn is not to lie on a couch and let a doctor teach you. That's making you more helpless. In group therapy, the doctor asks a question, you answer, and then this patient says, it empowers you because you see, number one, you're not alone. Other people have that problem. And number two, you can learn from each other. I did the first doctorate essay, thesis, in group therapy. And the doctor in my hospital, when I said to him, listen, he said, Timothy. He liked me. He said, Timothy, poor boy, you cannot do patients in a group because they would infect each other. It's contagious. The paranoid who's got all these things will get bad ideas from the obsessive-compulsive. He did not think it was legal. I and several other psychologists took the power away from the psychoanalyst and we gave the power to the patient. So right now in America, if you have an emotional problem, it's like you're a baseball player, you're striking out, or maybe you're in a slump. You don't go to a doctor or a clinic, you go to a group and you find a group of people. And there you practice and perform. Psychoanalysis was wonderful, and Freud had many good ideas. But today, don't go to a doctor. Find groups that you can help yourself. You've got to be your own doctor and find other people that share your problem and help each other. But don't rely on doctors.
Good idea. No próximo bloco, nós vamos de flashback. Timothy Leary fala dos anos 60. Até já. Quem viveu sabe. Quem não viveu tem que saber que os anos 60 foram muito loucos, divertidos, experimentais, contestatórios e libertadores. Timothy Leary estava no epicentro dos acontecimentos como um dos gurus do movimento hippie. Do you miss the 60s?
No.
Why not?
Things were very slow then. In the 1960s, I was a professor at Harvard. Very big. I had one telephone, like this, one television, black and white. I had one record player, this.
Playing what?
Playing rhythm and blues. Rhythm and blues. Ray Charles, Elvis Presley. And then, of course, the Beatles. Today, in my home, and it's a middle-class home, we have 4 telephones, we have answering machines, we have 3 televisions color, we have 36 channels. My son has that. Our electronic information machinery I have in my house now, well, that you have in your house, would have cost $10 million 30 years ago. The CIA did not have what the average American or the average Brazilian middle-class person has. This means we're getting information. Boom, 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 facts. Telephones in the cars. We have a concept. It's a joke. Say RPM in a machine means revolutions per minute. We now in electronics and brain say RPM, realities per minute. Boom, 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 boom.
And options.
It's got way options, choice, yes. So I don't miss the 60s. Today things happen so quickly that it seems very slow back in the... We were very young and romantic and idealistic, but we're much faster and smarter now.
Well, in a quick valuation, what did the 60s leave of positive and negative aspects?
Well, each individual. By the way, politics can't solve you. Individually, if you were smart, you got a great deal from the 60s. What did the 1960s do in America? The idea was individual freedom. Think for yourself. Don't follow the church. Don't follow politicians. Don't go to the army. Think for yourself. It's all Bob Dylan was singing. Don't work on Maggie's farm no more. That means don't work for the authority. in that we stopped the war. The 1960s was global. Hello, brother, peaceful. It was very meditative. And the religion of the 60s was the religion of humanism. God is not there in Rome. God is not there in Mecca. God is inside the human being. And your job as a human being is to awaken and discover your soul and your power and share it with other people. Now that was wonderful for a while, but then Reagan came in and crushed it down. But the spirit of individual freedom, the spirit of we don't like the military and we don't like politics, it went to Europe. It was in Eastern Europe. When I watched the revolution in the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union, in 1989 and 1990, when they came over the Berlin Wall, those were not soldiers, those were not politicians, they were young people. That same look, freedom, peace.
Like before in the 60s.
Exactly, yeah. In about a year ago, you remember the generals in Russia took Gorbachev and kidnapped him? And there were those scenes in Red Square in Moscow, the tanks came, and women came out and threw flowers at the tanks. And young people came and threw flowers at the soldiers. And soldiers came and took off their uniforms and threw flowers. That's the 60s. And they could not stop that. That was the good part of the 60s.
In your book, Flashbacks, you say that the Kennedy's death changed the history. Recently, JFK, the film, brought to light again the polemic about the murder. Did you see the movie first? And do you agree with the conspiracy theory? Also, in what the history would be or would have been different?
Yes, I saw the movie. Oliver Stone is a friend of mine. I have known him for many years. The movie was about Garrison, but Oliver Stone does not believe that Garrison, nobody believes that. What Oliver Stone was trying to do was to get you and me to think about it. Also, the American government has locked up until 2029. For 30 years, we cannot see what is in those files. Because of Oliver Stone's movie, everybody now wants to see, the government is going to open those files and show. Of course, what they'll do is, the government will not show us all the files.
Yeah.
But yes, I think it's wonderful that Oliver Stone made that movie because it made people think. Now, your second question, Gabi, was, did the death of Kennedy make a difference?
Yes.
Yes, because that kept the Vietnam War going. But more important than the death of JFK was the killing of his brother Robert. Because in 1968, if they had not shot Robert Kennedy, he would have come into power as the president of young people and peace. And yes, the blacks loved him and the poor people loved him. He would have changed America.
Do you believe in that?
Oh yes, I believe that he would have won and he would have stopped the war. So yes, both of the deaths. On the other hand, history is always that way. You have a moment of renaissance and then the Inquisition, the crackdown. But nothing could happen in the 1960s because to bring about a real change in yourself or a real change in society, you have to change the way of communicating. And this way is over. The new electronic screen language in which the young person in Brazil can talk on screens with a young person in Japan, that is going to produce the real revolution.
Dr. Leary, in the 60s, the U.S. war was against Vietnam. In the 90s, against Iraq. Our war is always the same, or these were different between them. In what?
Vietnam and
Gulf War.
Well, in the Vietnam War, slowly, 40, 45, 50, 55%, the American people, 60% said, no, bring our soldiers back. Why fight over there? And the soldiers were drafted. They were forced to go there. And when the soldiers got there, they would not fight against the Vietnam. In the Gulf War, that was not a war. That was a television program.
Yeah, but many people died there.
How many? We don't know.
No.
They say about 300 Americans died, but half the Americans were shot by friendly fire by other Americans. Do you know today the American government will not tell us how many Iraqi civilians they killed? 200,000, 300,000? We don't know, because one thing the military learned from Vietnam and the Persian Gulf: control television. Control television. And we saw on our screens only what the military wanted us to see. No bodies, great success. It was all lies, all hallucination. Do you remember the Scud missile?
This is not scary.
It's frightening. I said the brainwashing of the American people by television is frightening. But the answer to that is to have your own way of changing the screen, and you send your message by telephone.
And do you believe that if you have this way of changing things, you are going to change political minds also?
No, the political minds are finished. Forget them. The hope of Brazil is not in the politicians. It's in the young people. I know that many young people in Brazil are poor, and the main problem is food. I know, but to help them, I want to talk to about 20% of the young people in Brazil who have some high school education, who have some college education. Learn how to communicate with computers. Forget about the old politicians. They can't help you. Young Brazilians, learn how to think for yourself and build up networks of computers. The future of Brazil is young people in Brazil. And the wonderful thing about it, Gabby, is the same young group of people exists in Japan. I am the editor, sub-editor of 3 Japanese youth magazines, and they have the same music, they have the same language on screens. They're called raves. In London, in San Francisco, I went to a club meeting just a week ago. Young people come, and they're using cybernetic, computer visionary like that. They're having kind of hallucinations, not with drugs, but with screens.
But you have said the word drugs. I know you don't want to talk about this, but I must ask you for a short answer. You have already said that you are against hard drugs like cocaine and heroin.
Cocaine,
yes,
never.
But these are the drugs industrialized by the big cartels and used by the youth today. Was the seed of this use introduced in the 60s by the hippie movement or not?
Well, no, because the hippie movement was using marijuana, ayahuasca. LSD is made from grain. These are vegetables, and they're very peaceable. What the government does, they pushed out the good drugs, and they put it... There was never cocaine in the 60s. The heroin was not used. There was a big movement called Woodstock. Do you remember Woodstock?
Of course.
500,000 college young people came, and for 3 days, rock and roll, love, stop the war. There were many psychedelic drugs there. Not one... Could you imagine at Woodstock someone using crack or cocaine? No, it did not exist then. And another terrible thing in America today, the real drug problem is alcohol. At colleges now, the hospitals are filled with students who take alcohol. Now this is government policy. The government was very involved in Peru and Iran and the cocaine and Noriega. Yes.
Just for money or for mind control also?
Both. See, the government, the CIA, can make money with the cocaine, and they go into the triangle where they have poppies in Asia. It gives them a chance. Money, money, guns, helicopters, guns, 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 money. Yeah. See, the thing is, there's no money for marijuana. Marijuana grows anywhere. You can, in your own backyard. They don't like that. Have you ever heard of a gang of marijuana people going around shooting guns? It makes you laugh. That's why the government pushes marijuana away and makes cocaine and heroin and alcohol are good for a military government, because it gives you money and gangsters and cartels. And
control.
Control.
No próximo bloco, a herança cultural dos anos 60. Até já. para o Dr. Leary, por favor. Foi para Timothy Leary que John Lennon compôs Come Together. E ele estava lá quando John e Yoko nos deram a famosa entrevista na cama de um hotel no Canadá. I was talking about John Lennon and Yoko and the interview and the music Come Together. He made it for you. John Lennon and Yoko Ono today would be angels compared to what we see in TV clips. Does it mean an evolution in behavior and arts?
Yes, what the military government in America did. See, Bush and Reagan are like your colonels. It's guns, military, military, military. People like John and Yoko were love and peace. Now on television you have Schwarzenegger, the Rambo, the Sly Stallone. In television in America today, one night, there are over 100 guns and fights and turning over cars. That's deliberate. They're training the American people to want control and violence. Yes, John and Yoko were very
Could be angels. But anyway, I'm talking about the movie, the music clips you can see. They have lots of sex, lots of music, and lots of images also. These mean an evolution, anyway?
Now?
Yeah.
You're talking about MTV?
Well, why not?
Yeah. Well, I think MTV is wonderful. Yeah. I think that MTV is forming a culture. You don't see much violence on MTV.
No, but you can see lots of sex.
Well, what's wrong with sex?
Well,
I love sex.
You said at the beginning of the interview that we have lots of violence and sex. You said that in a very critical way.
What I meant was abusive sex. The sex you have. No, on American television, you cannot show a woman's breast. Oh no! The kind of sex is boom, 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 and no, it's not. Anyway, what do you want to know about sex?
Oh, everything. Right. Everything. But I was asking about the evolution of the clips of the, well, you know what I was talking about.
I think MTV is a wonderful vehicle now for young people because it's not just music. MTV in America has a lot of politics, there's a lot of humor, there's a lot of comedy. They put me on little clips. It's very educational. It's not educational with books. Boom, 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 to make you think. I did a talk yesterday for MTV here in Brazil, and there's the same spirit of young people. By the way, I've said that I want the young people of Brazil to take over. I want to come back to Brazil. I want to come and lecture at universities, because that's what I do in the United States. And I want to make a friend. To me, a country is like a friend. This is my first date, my first beginning, the first flirtation with Brazil. And I hope that many people in Brazil will want me to come back, because I want to have a love affair with Brazil.
Dr. Leary, you are the symbol of a rupture time. Ooh. You raised your children in this time. Now you have grandchildren. Have these, how many? 5? Have these 2 generations become what you imagined they would be?
No, it's terrible what's happened to the young people in America. Young people in America today, there's a feeling of power, of being poor. Yeah, middle-class kids cannot go to college because it costs so much, and their mother and father both have to work. The old people in America control about 60% of the money and the care. It's terrible in America. The educational system is down. And all this money being spent on war and on weapons and on savings and loans, that's taken from the pockets of young people. Young people in America today are going to be paying the bill for Reagan and Bush's military adventures. It's very hard to be a young person today in America because morale. You can't believe, perhaps you know, the morale in America is very low. People are depressed for the first time. Whereas in the 60s, it was happy and loving.
You were living in a recession.
Yes.
And what about your father? Let's talk about your father. He was an alcoholic and stayed several years far from home.
Yes.
What did you inherit from him?
Well, one thing I like about my father He did not hang around home and try to tell me to be like him. In truth, my father was an Irish person, and he drank. But he never abused. My father did something that was really kind of funny when I look back on it, but wonderful. He would come home drunk, and he would ask my mother and I to come down in our pajamas, and he would recite Shakespeare. Sometimes in his underwear. He'd say, Polonius, this above all else to thine own self, blah, 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 blah. And I remember it so that he was not a bad person, and he was not a mean person. He never once struck me in all those years. So and he taught me, if you're going to drink, be a friendly drunk, and he just sing songs. He did not come home and fight.
In your memories, you always go to your mother. Are the mothers that shape the character of the children?
Well, it depends on the family. It depends on the mother and the father. Unfortunately, in America, and I think in Brazil, families, there's a father, many times the father is very strong, and he could control...
Very macho.
Macho, yes. I think, now's the time to say this, Gabby, the number one problem facing the world today, in Brazil, America, all around the globe, is the pervasive, brutal repression of children and women by macho men. And the terrible thing about it is, the poorest man, you know, he's poor, he has no job, all the goes down him. He goes home and he beats up his wife and his children. So the children of the poor and the wives of the poor are the real people that are suffering. And I mentioned before, we're organizing a women's party to...
in USA.
Yeah. And the number one thing, a women's party, take care of your children. Educate your children. Take care of your home. If you can't educate your children, what good is a politician?
Talking about politicians, you tried to become, or to be a candidate to the government of California.
Yeah.
Why? Would it be the confirmation that every man is a political being?
Well, I've learned a lot about macho men in the last 20 years. Yes, I think the one thing that we have learned because of the 60s is how terrible male macho is. We didn't realize that before. And so I have become much more open. Also, I believe in states. I think that the American government, USSA in Washington, should collapse, just like the USSR in the Soviet Union. And just as you have the state of Ukraine, and you have Latvia, and you have Lithuania, the American state should go back, and the Mississippi and Texas. I am not an American. I do no longer salute the flag of the United States. I'm a Californian. And I really belong to the free city of Los Angeles.
But every man is a political being.
Everyone? No women?
No, I'm talking about human being.
Well, I do not want power. And you know, when they asked me if I became governor, what would I do? You know what my answer was, Gabby?
Yeah.
As little as I can. In other words, just stay out of people's business. Governments cause all the trouble. Politicians get in power, and they create problems so that they can get more money to solve the problems. The military likes to build up a war so that, hey, police love to have a new crime, so there'll be more police. When I ran for governor of California, I made a platform, I made a list of all the things I was going to do. And the number one thing I said was, the state government of California should not take taxes from people. I'm going to run this state so it will make money for people. I'm going to charge admission to come into the state. And we're going to legalize everything so that so that you could come in. It would be like a wonderful place where people could learn. It's going to be the educational capital of the world. So that I was going to, for example, my campaign for governor, I was going to get a train and go all the way up to the state. On my train, the Beatles had signed up, the Rolling Stones, the Grateful Dead, Jimi Hendrix. They would come and they would play at different places. We would come to a city in California, say Fresno. We would get the baseball field. We would charge $15 to $20 to come to my rally, and the Rolling Stones would play, and then I would give the money that we made and give it to the state of California to show that I'm the opposite of a politician. I don't want to take your money.
I want you to give
I would give it to you. Yeah. No wonder. They put me in jail in a minute. Don't want that to happen.
I was going to talk about these. Dr. Leary, you spent 5 years of your life in jail.
Well, 4 years in jail and 2 years in exile.
Do you believe that these was necessary for your
Yes.
the shape you are today?
Yes.
Do you believe in that?
Oh, I believe that, yes.
Why?
Well, throughout history, if you're a philosopher who says, think for yourself and never mind authorities, you are going to be in trouble. Socrates, my teacher Socrates, they made him drink the hemlock. Giordano Bruno, who said the same thing, human beings are the center, they put him in a microwave oven and they burned him at the stake. Yes, I'm proud to say that I spent almost 4 years in prison for no crime because of my ideas that I was thinking. And I look in the camera and I say, any of you philosophers out there, are you ready to go to prison for your beliefs? I was, and I learned a great deal from that. Going to prison for 4 years, I learned as much as 4 years in the university.
But prison, not anymore. Huh?
No.
No próximo bloco, religião, família e extraterrestres, na opinião de Timothy Leary. Até já. Timothy Leary, em 36 livros de sua autoria, surfou por vários temas, de sexo a política e de psicologia a memórias. Dr. Leary, I would like to propose some themes to you that are always up to date. Starting with religion. Are you religious, and what role does religion play today?
Well, there are good religions and there are evil bad religions. An evil bad religion is one that says, like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, there is one God, and he's my God, and I am the chosen person, and if you do not believe my God, you are sinful. That's called monotheism, one God. I belong to the majority of human beings who are humanists. We believe that God is found inside each human being, and that your brain is your soul, and it is your job, it's your job as a human being to develop your soul and to grow. You can't get it from a priest or a minister or by going to a temple. Your job is to do it yourself with the help of your friends. And you can find teachers that will help you have your soul grow. So
But anyway, do you believe in God?
I believe in all sorts, yes, all sorts of God. I have studied God. I believe in many gods. I believe the gods of nature. I believe superior intelligence. I don't care what name you give her. I believe that there is a divine intelligence, and it is our responsibility to learn to grow. And then above all, I know that our gods want us to grow and become like them. They don't want to hold us down or punish us.
Economy. Today we are living international problems caused by the world division in poor and rich countries. In your vision of the future, is it going to be solved?
Yes, the problem of poverty and of starvation, say in Africa, it's political. It's male macho men grabbing power, and the difference between the rich and the poor. In Brazil, they're very, very rich and poor. In America, under Reagan and Bush, it's like your colonels, few rich and poor. The answer, I think, is the younger generation. You cannot, I don't want to vote. Right now in the United States, there are all these Democrats and there's Bush. I would like to have as President of the United States a man who's had experience, a lot of great experience in running a big empire and in learning how to dissolve it. I think Mikhail Gorbachev.
Would you like to have him for your president?
Yes.
Really?
Then he would break it down in Mississippi and Texas. He'd do exactly for America what he did to the Soviet Union. He'd allow its freedom and to separate.
Sex. We liberated ourselves sexually to a confrontation today with AIDS.
Yeah.
Was it all in vain?
What, sexual liberation?
Yeah.
Well, AIDS is a terrible problem, but it will be solved. It will be solved. The reason we have AIDS now is in human history, anytime groups of human beings have come together from Asia to Europe, they would have a sexual disease. Remember syphilis, when the armies would come, the French would call syphilis the Italian disease, and the Italians would call it the French disease. Whenever you have human beings meeting, the first thing they do is exchange diseases. So AIDS is caused by the fact that lots of Americans and Europeans went to Africa, and they were making love with people there, and then Haiti and all that. They will solve that problem. I was on an AIDS benefit program, and they were talking about safe sex. Safe sex. I said, well, yes, but more important than safe sex is good sex. And good sex means that you respect the person you're with. And good sex means you would never think of giving a disease to another person. Good sex is you're learning how to share, and the answer, they will solve the AIDS problem, but good sex is always needed, and I hope we'll have more and more good sex between mutually respecting adults.
Me too. Family. You had many, from the most elementary, small, to the big family of communities. What is the family future?
In America now, the Republicans want to go back to the old family the way it was before. The old family in 19th century was horrible. The father was the king, and the mother. You know, women could not vote in America 100 years ago, and the children, they used to say, children should, like that.
Women couldn't even write.
I know it, yes. So that the family in the future has got to...
I was talking about literature, not write for...
Yeah.
Literature.
Oh, no. Yeah. The key to the family in the future is the equality for women. Women have got to be equals. If women are not... But I cannot emphasize this. In America, every 9 seconds, a man beats up a woman. In just the last... I've said that twice. 2 women in America have been beat up by men. A rape. Every 15 minutes in America, a man rapes a woman. Not to mention the 24 hours a day harassment and pushing down psychologically. Women have got to stand up and respect themselves and not let this happen. The future of the family depends upon the women and upon civilized men who want to have equality. Personally, I've never wanted to be with a woman who was, subservient. I remember, I've never told this before. Can I tell you a little story from my sex life?
Please.
When I was very young, like 10 years old, there were 2 girls, I was like 10, there were 2 girls. They were kind of flirting. We were not sexual, genital, but flirting, boys and girls. And one of them was a sweet little thing that would look at me like this, and then and the other was a feisty one going around like that. I like the feisty one. I have always, in my life, tried to be with the wildest, most intelligent, strongest woman, because I want a woman that is my partner and that can teach me something. I hate the idea that I'm the big male like that. That's the...
And from this woman, in your opinion, it depends the future of the family.
Yeah.
Life in other planets. Do you believe in it and in third kind encounters?
Yes, I believe scientifically that in all these galaxies there must be millions of planets like ours. Maybe the human beings will be different. Maybe they won't be human beings. But yes, I do believe in life from outer space. I do not believe in these movements of UFOs, because what happens is, inside my brain is ready when the right time comes to talk to people from outer space. We all have these dreams inside. Our brains are extraterrestrial. We're going to leave the planet. We're going to go off in spaceships, so that our brains are waiting. Just like the brain of an 8-year-old child is ready to become a sexual woman when she's 20. We have brains ready to deal with. But now people go around saying, yes, I was taken by a UFO and they looked at me. I don't believe that. I believe that it's in our brains, but we have to go step by step. As a matter of fact, the human race right now is so primitive, I don't think any self-respecting people out there would want to... They don't know how to operate their brains. And they still have macho men running things. Forget about planet Earth. We'll come back in 1,000 years. But I want to come back to Brazil before 1,000 years. And,
like an E.T.?
Yeah. I want to be E.T., and I hope there's some university people out there that will arrange to get me back, because I have a lot I want to share with you.
That dream is over. What is the next?
I told you, global language, young people in different countries on screens, using the screen. I'd like to say something. Whether you know it or like it or not, your brain and your mind is being controlled every day, every time you look at a television screen. And every time you turn on the television screen from now on, remember my words. Someone is going to program your mind with what you see there. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. Maybe they just want to do something like Michelob beer, suddenly strobe, dancing, sex, girls, boys, fast. They get you in a kind of a trance state, and then you see a bottle with the foam coming down, Michelob beer. Yes, absolutely. There's no question. They've brainwashed you. Beware, every time you look at a television screen, who is programming your brain? The aim is you should be able to put your own thoughts and dreams and visions on the screen yourself.
I hope we are programming brains today with this program.
Yes, I'm hypnotizing you. Listen to me. Learn how to use your own head. Do not listen to Big Brother. You do it yourself.
No próximo bloco, bate-bola com Timothy Leary.